Hello and welcome to Access Asia. Coming up, COVID-19 is testing China's leadership and its people's patience. As cases continue to climb in Anhui province, another 1.7 million people are locked down. Tokyo's High Court rejects paternity harassment allegations by a Canadian man. We'll meet Glen Wood and find out what's next in his legal battle. And India bans 19 single-use plastic items to combat rising pollution. Advocates say it's a start, but that everything will depend on local authorities enforcing the law. Well, China is the world's last major economy still imposing a draconian zero-COVID strategy, but Beijing has repeatedly defended it. Another 1.7 million people were put on lockdown in central Anhui province. Take a look.
Deserted streets as far as the eye can see. This is the latest county in the central Chinese province of Anhui, which has been placed into lockdown. Here, 1.7 million residents are only permitted to leave their homes for mass testing. The harsh measures coming into place despite case numbers in the early hundreds. The province implementing the strict lockdown just as the world's second largest economy rebounds following months-long restrictions in Beijing and Shanghai. Millions in China's financial capital were placed in lockdown for weeks, and despite rare protests due to widespread food shortages, authorities maintained their zero-COVID strategy. While other major economies have learned to live with the virus, China is refusing to take any risks. According to some analysts, President Xi Jinping is hoping to beat COVID-19 as he looks to secure a third term during the Communist Party Congress later this year.
Glen Wood has come to symbolize concerns over paternity harassment in Japan. Indeed, his case is one of the very first of its kind in the country. Last month, the Tokyo High Court rejected an appeal by Wood. He has alleged on-the-job harassment and unlawful dismissal from his job at Mitsubishi UFJ Morgan Stanley after taking parental leave when his son was born prematurely in 2015. In a 21-page ruling, the court defended the company's action as inevitable. But Wood said his fight is not over, and for more, we can speak to him now. Hello to you, Glen, and thank you for speaking to France 24. Just want to begin with your son, now 6 years old. You've moved on. You started your own company. Why do you want to continue this legal battle?
It's very simple, really. When my son was born prematurely in 2015, it was a life or death situation. The company not only wouldn't accept my application for paternity leave, which is a legal right in Japan, then when I returned to work, they harassed and fired me. The point here, as a manager, I take responsibility for what the company has done to other people and are currently doing. Harassment's never an acceptable form of management. Everyone has a right to have a family and continue their career. That's the point.
Yeah, and I'm wondering how this unexpected journey changed you. I mean, you're already navigating life as a single father. Now you're this very public face of paternity harassment in a country that isn't always the kindest with outsiders.
Yeah, no, that's right. And, putting up my hand was something that is really you're not supposed to do. But, all I'm doing is asking that they follow their own law, that the paternity and maternity leave law in Japan has been around now for 20 years. They've got an extraordinary problem, demographic situation where people are not having children. The birth rate is at all-time historic lows in Japan, which is really hard to believe. And yet when you take a look at this case and see that people are actively being fired for trying to have a family, it's easy to understand why that's the situation. And again, that's why we're standing up.
So Japan has a shrinking population. It also has a parental leave law that is a top priority. But why do you think there's this disconnect between what's on paper and what's actually being practiced?
There's a long-standing corporate culture, William, in Japan, which basically says that anyone takes holidays for any reason is viewed as treason. And so if people are viewed as the property of the company, then of course taking holidays is unacceptable. But the fact is the world has moved on, and harassment is just never an acceptable form of management, especially in 2022.
Yeah, and just a reminder that maternity harassment far more common in Japan for women. Glen, as you were saying, these policies are part of the workplace culture in Japan. It's a very patriarchal country, and some critics would say that the courts are too conservative to make a radical ruling that real change would have to come from a business level or a societal level rather than the government itself. What do you think? Is there a direction that we should be hoping for change?
Yeah, unfortunately, the courts are very tied to corporate Japan, and so many legal experts, for example, who have read this ruling by Judge Yuji Watanabe in Japan, have said that it sounds very much like the ruling was actually written by Mitsubishi and Morgan Stanley, rather than by the courts. So yeah, it's time for change. We're starting an ESG fund. E is environmental, S is social policy, and G is corporate governance. And our hopes are that investment advisors and investment funds will put their money where their mouth is and invest in corporations that are doing the right thing. We're also publishing a book which is dealing with the same subject. And we also, as you know, have a petition on change.org, which has gathered some 30,000 signatures already. So, I think we're gaining momentum. This is going to the Supreme Court. And frankly, I'm going to continue this fight for the rest of my life. I think it's time when we just say, corporations that don't allow people to have a family, they don't deserve to have our capital. They don't deserve to really have a place in capitalism anymore.
All right, Glenn. Thank you very much for sharing your time and your story with us here at France 24. Well, India has banned 19 single-use plastic items, things like straws, cups, and cigarette packets, all to combat worsening pollution. It's a radical move and the first such nationwide ban. India uses about 14 million tons of plastic annually, but the country lacks an organized system for managing that plastic waste, leading to widespread littering. Delana D'Souza has more.
A targeted ban which aims to tackle plastic pollution in India. It's now illegal to produce, stock or sell 19 single-use items, including plastic cups and straws.
This is a national level ban. And it includes the manufacturing, sale, and import of all of the listed items. So this is definitely a welcome move. What I would say is that given the magnitude of the plastic crisis, the pollution crisis, this is too little.
Plastic bottles have not been included in the ban, but the government has set targets for manufacturers to recycle or dispose them after use. And while single-use plastic bags also aren't banned, they are now set to become sturdier to encourage reuse.
If you implement a ban, there needs to be alternatives available so that we aren't impacted.
India uses around 14 million tons of plastic every year and generates over 4 million tons of plastic waste.
If you look at all the plastics which get generated as a waste every year, there are indications, there are estimates that around 70% of that is currently being recycled. But they are good quality plastics in the sense those which fetch good price to the waste picker or waste collector, and that is why they are collected. The problem is this 30% which is not collected, which is low value plastic. And in other terms, they can also be called as single-use plastics.
Scaling back the production and waste of single-use plastics is key to India meeting its climate targets. New Delhi wants to bring emissions down 45% by 2030. The success of the latest bans will depend on how the rules are enforced by state and local authorities.
Well, Australia's new left-leaning government has promised to tackle climate change. One of the country's best-known natural wonders hangs in the balance. The Great Barrier Reef suffered another mass bleaching event, and as long as Australia remains one of the world's largest exporters of fossil fuels, some say the reef's survival is uncertain. Our correspondents Rochelle Harrison and Gregory Pless have more.
About to take the plunge. Tourists don snorkels and fins during an excursion to Magnetic Island off the coast of Queensland, Australia. Tour operators Stephanie and Adam Hinks are introducing them to one of the 7 natural wonders of the world, the Great Barrier Reef.
I hope to see a turtle and some colourful fish.
But the underwater world that awaits them is increasingly vulnerable to climate change. In March, the world's largest coral reef system dealt a fresh blow, suffering yet another mass bleaching event, impacting more than 90% of the corals surveyed.
When we have a bleaching event, we want to get into the water, we want to see what effect it's had. They're all like our little babies, you know. We want to go and check out every little reef patch.
The reef generates more than 4.3 billion euros for the Australian economy each year, with marine tourism supporting more than 64,000 jobs.
We rely on guests to be able to come and visit and to see the reef.
Those livelihoods are at stake as marine heat waves become more frequent and more intense. The latest bleaching event was the 6th since 1998, but the 4th just in the last 6 years. Yet the coral can survive.
Coral bleaching is much like heat stroke in a human. A person can get heat stroke, and as long as they get cooled down quickly enough, they'll be fine. Coral bleaching is exactly the same. It's a stress condition that you would rather avoid entirely, but just because you get the stress condition, the heat stroke, doesn't mean that you'll necessarily die.
The newly elected Labour government will spend more than 800 million euros on protecting the reef, funding to pour in over the next 9 years.
About 2/3 of that is to work with farmers to improve land use practices and reduce pollution from agricultural land to the Great Barrier Reef.
But measures taken to improve farming practices are just one piece of the puzzle.
That's a great idea to do, but it's not addressing the elephant in the room, which is global warming.
Many insisting on stronger, urgent action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and prevent further mass bleaching.
It's like 10 Category 5 severe cyclones coming ashore holding hands in terms of the scale of, and the severity of the loss of corals. It takes about a decade for the fastest growing corals to show a half-decent recovery. We no longer have that length of time between these recurrent bleaching events due to global warming.
Climate scientists say the planet must limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius to give natural landmarks like the Great Barrier Reef a fighting chance of survival. Coral reefs around the world are projected to decline by a further 70 to 90% under a temperature rise of 1.5 degrees Celsius. At 2 degrees, experts warn 99% would disappear.
Well, that's it for this edition. Thank you for watching, and please stay tuned to France 24.
From North to South Africa, from Bamako to Nairobi, from Accra to Mogadishu. Bringing you all the political, economic, cultural and social news from Africa for a better insight into an ever-changing continent.
Across Africa, presented by Georgia Calvin-Smith on France 24 and France24.com.
France 24, your window on the world.
Liberté, égalité, actualité.